Neighbor's mail-order bride beaten and bruised. The lonely rancher said, "You're coming with me." Tom was used to the quiet. The wide-open plains of his ranch stretched for miles, golden in the morning sun and silver under the moonlight at night. He liked it that way. The wind whispered through the tall grass. The cattle moved slowly in their pens, and the distant mountains stood like silent guardians. He had lived here most of his life, alone, with only the land and his animals for company. It was a peaceful life, simple and predictable, and Tom liked it that way. He woke early, checked the fences, tended the livestock, and spent his evenings repairing what needed fixing around the ranch. He rarely ventured into the small town nearby. Most people saw him as a quiet, solitary man, a little strange, maybe, but harmless. On one of those early mornings, the sky painted in shades of pink and orange. Tom saddled his old horse, Rusty, to check the fences along the edge of his property. The air was crisp, and the smell of dew and earth filled his lungs. Rusty's hooves kicked up small clouds of dust as they walked along the winding path. Tom had almost reached the edge of his property when something unusual caught his eye. Breaths. Standing near the road that led to the neighboring property was a woman. At first he thought she might be lost, but as he got closer he noticed the bruises on her arms, and the way she limped with each step. Her hair was messy, and her clothes were torn and dirty. She looked scared, like she had been running from something, or someone. Bah. Tom felt a sudden pang in his chest. He had never been one to interfere in other people's business, but something about the sight of her hurt. He slowed Rusty to a walk, keeping a careful distance. The woman didn't see him at first. She looked around nervously, as if expecting someone to appear at any moment. Her eyes were wide with fear, and her lips trembled. Tom could tell she was exhausted, both physically and emotionally. He had seen desperation before, in sick animals or injured cattle, but there was something deeper here, something human and raw that pulled at him. "Ma'am?" Tom called gently, raising his hand in a gesture of peace. "Are you okay?" The woman flinched and took a step back, her eyes darting around as if she expected an attacker to emerge from the shadows. Tom dismounted slowly, keeping his movements calm and non-threatening.
"I won't hurt you," he said softly.
"Psst. You look like you need help." Her eyes filled with tears, and she shook her head. "No?" "No, I can't. I have to. I need to leave," she whispered, barely audible. Her voice was hoarse, as if she had been crying for hours. Tom nodded slowly. He didn't say anything more. He just stepped closer, careful not to startle her, and gestured toward Rusty. "You can come with me. I have water, food, a safe place to rest." For a moment, the woman hesitated. Her gaze flicked to the horizon, then back to Tom. She looked like she wanted to run, but her body seemed too tired, too beaten to make a quick escape. There was a long pause, filled only with the sound of the wind rustling through the grass and Rusty shifting his weight. Finally, she took a hesitant step forward. Tom offered his hand, and after a moment she placed her trembling fingers in his.
"Ah!"
He could feel how fragile she was, like she might crumble under the weight of her own fear. Carefully, he led her to Rusty, helping her mount the horse slowly, supporting her as best he could. She sat stiffly, clutching the reins as if holding on to them would somehow protect her from the world. "Don't worry," Tom said, guiding Rusty down the path that led back to his ranch. Breaths. "You're safe now. No one will hurt you here." The woman's eyes darted around, still alert, still scanning for danger. But as the minutes passed and the fences of Tom's property appeared in the distance, she seemed to relax slightly. Her shoulders sagged, and she leaned forward, resting her head against Rusty's neck for a brief moment. Tom didn't say anything. He let her catch her breath, let her know that here she didn't have to be afraid. By the time they reached the ranch house, the sun had risen higher, casting warm light across the fields. Tom led her inside, where the smell of fresh bread and coffee greeted them. He offered her a glass of water and a small meal, which she accepted hesitantly. She didn't speak much, only nodding occasionally and staring down at her hands, bruised and dirty. Tom watched her carefully, sensing the story behind those bruises but knowing it wasn't his place to ask too many questions too soon. He knew enough. Something had gone terribly wrong in her life. Someone had hurt her, and she had nowhere else to go. He could see it in the way she flinched at sudden movements, the way she avoided eye contact, the way her body tensed as if bracing for a blow that wasn't coming. Over the next few hours, Tom helped her clean up, bandaged the worst of her bruises, and offered her a place to sleep. The ranch house was simple but comfortable, with a warm bed, clean sheets, and the quiet of the countryside surrounding it. For the first time in days, the woman seemed to relax, though her eyes still held a shadow of fear. "Thank you," she whispered finally, her voice barely audible. Tom nodded, offering a small smile. "You don't have to thank me. Just rest. You're safe here." That night, as she slept, Tom sat on the porch, looking out over his fields. He couldn't shake the feeling that his life was about to change. He had lived alone for so long, and now, this woman, frightened, fragile, but somehow strong, was in his care. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing. He would do everything he could to keep her safe. The next morning, the woman woke early, her body sore and tired. She moved quietly, trying not to disturb Tom, who was already outside checking the water troughs. When he noticed her, he nodded in greeting. "Morning," he said simply. "Sleep okay?" She nodded slowly, still cautious. I think so. Thank you again, Brass." Tom shrugged, as if it was no big deal.
You don't have to thank me.
"Just take it easy today. There's plenty of work on the ranch, but nothing too hard."
You can get used to the place. Over the next few days, Tom and the woman, whose name she finally shared as Anna, began to form a quiet understanding.
She was still wary, still haunted by whatever horrors she had escaped, but she was beginning to see that not everyone was cruel. Tom didn't pressure her to talk about her past, and she didn't feel forced to explain herself. Instead, they shared small moments, tending to the animals, fetching water, repairing fences. With each passing day, Anna began to relax just a little, feeling a sense of safety she hadn't known in a long time.
The town, meanwhile, had begun to notice that Anna was with Tom. Rumors spread quickly.
Some people whispered that she was trouble. Others admired the courage of the rancher who had taken her in. Tom didn't care what others thought. He knew that Anna needed a place to heal, and he would provide that, no matter what anyone said.
As the sun set on the 5th day, casting long shadows across the fields, Anna sat on the porch, her hands resting on her lap.
She looked out at the wide-open plains, the sky painted in deep oranges and purples. For the first time since she arrived, she felt a flicker of hope. She didn't know what the future held, but for now, she was safe. And for the first time, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, things could get better. Tom watched her quietly, seeing the small signs of trust and relief. He didn't speak, didn't need to. He simply knew that this was the beginning, not just for Anna, but for both of them. Something had shifted, something unspoken but powerful. In that quiet moment, under the vast sky and endless fields, a fragile sense of safety and connection took root, ready to grow stronger in the days to come. And as night fell, the wind rustling through the tall grass, Tom felt a determination settle in his heart. He would protect her. He would give her a place to belong. He didn't yet know the challenges that lay ahead, the dangers from the past that might follow, or the journey of healing and trust that would take time. But he knew this: she was not alone anymore. Not while he was here. Days passed on the ranch, and the rhythm of life settled slowly around Tom and Anna. The mornings were crisp and quiet, filled with the sounds of cattle moving in their pens and the occasional crow of a distant rooster. The sun rose gently over the horizon, casting warm light across the fields, and for the first time in what felt like forever, Anna felt safe. The bruises on her arms and face were fading, and the soreness in her muscles was easing. Every day she grew a little stronger, and with each small improvement, a small spark of hope returned to her heart. Tom was patient with her. He didn't rush her, didn't force her to speak about the past, and didn't pressure her to do anything she wasn't ready for. Instead, he involved her in small chores around the ranch, feeding the chickens, collecting eggs, repairing fences, and helping in the garden. At first, Anna was clumsy and hesitant, unsure of herself and afraid she would break something or make a mistake. But Tom guided her carefully, showing her how to handle the animals gently, how to tie knots in the ropes securely, and how to work with patience and precision. Each small success gave her confidence. Each small task, completed without error, brought her a sense of pride she hadn't felt in a long time. The nights were quiet, filled with the soft sounds of the wind moving through the tall grass. Sometimes Anna would sit on the porch, watching the stars twinkle in the endless sky, and Tom would join her. They didn't speak much at first. Words were unnecessary. The silence itself was comforting, a shared understanding that they were safe and that they had found something rare, a place where they could simply exist without fear. Tom would occasionally point out constellations, sharing the names of stars and telling small stories about the land, and Anna listened, letting herself relax in the warmth of his calm presence. Despite the peace of the ranch, the outside world began to intrude. Rumors about Anna's arrival spread through the small town. Some people whispered judgmental words, questioning why Tom had taken in a stranger, especially one who had come into town under such difficult circumstances. Others admired his courage and quiet kindness, praising him in hushed tones for giving someone a chance when so many would have turned away. Anna heard the whispers on rare trips into town with Tom, though she tried not to react. The fear of judgment still lingered in her mind, a reminder of the life she had left behind. She was learning to trust Tom, but trusting strangers, especially a whole town, was something entirely different. Then, one morning, the first sign of real danger arrived. A rider appeared on the horizon, dust rising from the hooves as he approached at a steady pace. Tom noticed him immediately while tending the horses in the corral. Something about the rider's posture, the way he scanned the ranch as he came closer, set Tom on edge. He watched carefully, noting the tension in the man's shoulders and the sharpness in his gaze. The man was no casual traveler. He had purpose, and Tom's instincts told him it was trouble.
Anna, watching from the porch, noticed the rider as well.
Her body tensed instantly, the familiar spike of fear shooting through her chest. She knew that look, the calculating, cold-eyed stare of someone who thought they had the right to take what they wanted. She glanced at Tom, expecting him to panic, but he remained calm. Calm, but alert. Calm, but ready to protect. The reassurance in his presence gave her courage, though it was still tinged with fear. She realized then that she trusted him, not just because of his kindness, but because she knew he would never let anyone harm her if he could stop it. The rider approached the gate and called out, his voice carrying over the fields. Destiny.
Anna, You're coming with us.
Breath. He had feared this moment, had anticipated that her past would not stay behind her quietly. He stepped forward, blocking the path between the rider and Anna. "She's not going anywhere with you," Tom said firmly. His voice was calm, but there was steel beneath it, a strength that made the rider pause. The rider laughed, a cruel, mocking sound. "You think you can stop us?" "Bill! I have to die. You have no right." "Not now," Tom interrupted. "She's safe, and she will stay safe. If you try to hurt her, you'll regret it." Anna felt her heart pound in her chest, but for the first time in a long time she did not feel helpless. She stepped slightly closer to Tom, finding courage in his presence. Her eyes met his, and she saw a silent promise there. He would not let her face this alone. The rider's smile faltered. Gee. He had expected fear and submission, not defiance. Tom's calm confidence, combined with the open space of the ranch that gave him an advantage, unsettled him. He spat on the ground and muttered something under his breath, clearly reconsidering his next move. Finally, he turned his horse around and rode away, but not without a warning. "This isn't over. You'll regret this." Tom watched the rider disappear into the distance, his jaw tight. He turned to Anna, who was trembling but standing taller than she had in days. "It's okay," he said softly. "He's gone for now. You're safe here." Anna nodded, tears welling in her eyes, but they were not tears of fear. They were tears of relief. She realized that for the first time in a long while, someone had truly stood for her, without hesitation or judgment. Someone had given her protection and trust without expecting anything in return. Over the next few days, life on the ranch returned to a cautious calm. Tom and Anna continued their daily routines, but now there was an unspoken awareness of potential danger. But Tom began to teach Anna more about defending herself, small lessons about the land and how to move quietly, how to handle a rope, and how to stay aware of her surroundings. Anna absorbed these lessons eagerly, not because she wanted to fight, but because she wanted to be ready, to be capable, and to reclaim the sense of control that had been stolen from her. Their bond grew stronger in these days. They shared small meals, worked side by side in the fields, and sometimes just sat quietly, listening to the wind or the distant calls of cattle. Tom shared stories from his past, tales of growing up on the ranch, of challenges he had faced, and of lessons learned from hard work and perseverance. Anna listened, often laughing softly at his dry humor or nodding in understanding at the hardships he had endured. She began to feel like part of something, part of a world that had seemed distant and dangerous before. But even in these moments of peace, the threat of the past lingered. Anna sometimes woke in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, reliving memories of abuse and fear. Tom would quietly get up, check on her, and offer a reassuring hand or a soft word. "You're safe," he would say again and again until sleep returned to her. The repetition of those words, combined with his unwavering presence, began to work miracles on her spirit. Slowly, the terror that had dominated her life started to fade, replaced by cautious hope and growing trust. One evening, as the sun dipped below the mountains and the sky turned shades of deep orange and purple, Anna and Tom sat on the porch together. The air was filled with the scents of wildflowers and fresh grass. Anna finally spoke, her voice quiet but steady. I didn't think anyone would ever care enough to help me," she said. "I've always been alone. I didn't think I could trust anyone again." Tom nodded, looking out over the fields before meeting her gaze. "You're not alone anymore," he said, "and you don't have to be. Not here, not with me." For the first time, Anna allowed herself to believe it. She let herself feel hope, even if it was fragile and delicate. breath. She knew that challenges might come again, that the past could return, but for now, she was learning that safety, trust, and even friendship were possible. As night fell and stars began to twinkle in the clear sky, Anna realized that her life was changing. The ranch, the open fields, the quiet strength of Tom. They were giving her something she hadn't had in years, a chance to heal. And even though the road ahead was uncertain, even though the whispers of the past still lingered in the corners of her mind, she felt ready to face it, step by step, with someone who truly cared by her side.
In those days, Anna's transformation began quietly.
She laughed softly when feeding the chickens, helped Tom repair a broken fence without hesitation, and even began to speak more freely about small things. Her favorite foods, her hopes for the future, and memories from her childhood that weren't tainted by fear. Tom watched her with quiet pride, knowing that every small victory mattered, and that trust and healing couldn't be rushed. And as the wind whispered through the tall grass, carrying the scent of freedom and the warmth of the sun, Tom and Anna both knew that life on the ranch had changed forever. They had found safety, trust, and the beginnings of something stronger than fear. But deep down they also knew that the past would not disappear completely. Challenges would come, dangers might return, and Anna's journey to fully heal would not be easy. Yet together they were ready to face whatever came next, one step at a time, building a future on trust, care, and courage. The peace on the ranch lasted for a few more weeks, but both Tom and Anna knew it could not last forever. The warnings from the man who had come looking for Anna lingered in their minds, a shadow over their quiet life. Every sound in the night, the distant howl of a coyote, the rustle of leaves, or the sudden creak of a fence post, made Anna's heart race. She had learned to trust Tom, and his presence calmed her, but she still carried the memories of her past, where danger had always come when she least expected it. Tom noticed her anxiety and quietly taught her to be aware of her surroundings. He showed her how to move quietly across the fields, how to listen for unusual sounds, and how to remain calm even when her instincts screamed that something was wrong. Anna learned quickly, her natural intelligence and resilience helping her absorb each lesson, reversed. She began to realize that she was no longer helpless, but she could act, she could protect herself. And she had someone by her side who would protect her no matter what. One late afternoon, the ranch was bathed in golden sunlight, the cattle grazing lazily, the wind moving gently through the tall grass. Tom was checking the fences near the northern edge of the property when he noticed movement in the distance. At first, he thought it might be a stray cow, but the figures became clearer as they approached. His heart sank as he saw 3 men on horseback riding fast, dust trailing behind them. They were the men who had come for Anna before, and now there were more of them. Anna was inside the house when Tom ran to the door, waving to get her attention. "Anna, get ready, they're coming!" he shouted, his voice calm but urgent. Her body stiffened as fear shot through her. For a moment she froze, unsure what to do. But then she remembered everything Tom had taught her. The lessons about moving quietly, staying aware, and standing firm. She nodded, determination replacing her fear, and ran to join Tom outside. The men rode closer, shouting, demanding that Anna come with them. Their voices were harsh, filled with anger and entitlement. "Come with us! You don't belong here!" one of them yelled. Tom stood his ground, placing himself between Anna and the men.
"She's not going anywhere,"
he said firmly. His eyes were steady, his posture strong, a silent warning that he would not allow them to take her. The men laughed, thinking he was bluffing. They were used to people cowering, used to getting their way. But Tom had grown up on this land. He knew every inch of it, every ridge, every hidden path. He had faced storms, wild animals, and more than his share of trouble, and he knew how to protect what mattered most. The first man tried to dismount, thinking he could take Anna by force. Tom moved quickly, stepping forward and placing himself firmly in the man's path. "You will not lay a hand on her," he said, his voice low but commanding. The man hesitated, surprised by the calm authority in Tom's tone. Anna, standing close to Tom, felt her fear begin to fade. She could feel the strength radiating from him, the quiet determination that refused to back down. For the first time, she did not feel powerless. She had someone to stand with her, and she had herself. The men tried to advance, but Tom used his knowledge of the land to his advantage. He guided Rusty to block the path, using the horse as a barrier. He shouted to Anna to stay behind him, and she obeyed, gripping the reins tightly as she watched the scene unfold. One of the men lunged forward, but Tom sidestepped and grabbed a rope from his belt, swinging it with precision to stop the attacker. The man stumbled back, surprised by the rancher's skill and quick thinking. The others faltered, unsure how to proceed against someone who knew every detail of the land, who had trained his whole life to handle unexpected danger. Anna felt a surge of courage. She stepped slightly forward, her voice shaking but clear. "Leave! You have no right to take me!" she shouted. The men froze, clearly shocked. They had expected fear and submission, not defiance. The tension hung in the air like a storm about to break. Dust swirled around the ranch, the wind carrying the sounds of horses' hooves and shouted commands. Tom's eyes never left the intruders, his mind calculating, ready for any sudden move. Anna stood close behind him, her heart pounding, but she no longer felt helpless. But she was part of the defense now, part of the stand for her own safety and freedom. Finally, after what felt like hours but was only minutes, the men realized they were not going to succeed. They had underestimated Tom's knowledge, skill, and determination. And they had underestimated Anna's courage. One of them spat on the ground, muttered a curse, and turned his horse around. The others followed, riding away with the sound of their horses fading into the distance. Anna let out a shaky breath, her knees trembling. She had faced the threat and survived. She looked at Tom, who was calm but alert, and felt a wave of gratitude and admiration. You saved me," she said softly. Tom shook his head. "No, Anna. You helped save yourself."
I just stood by you. You were brave, and that's what made the difference.
In the days that followed, life on the ranch returned to a cautious normal. Anna's confidence grew with each passing day. Brash. She no longer flinched at every sound or jumped at sudden movements. She had faced real danger and survived, and that experience had changed her. Breath. She trusted Tom more deeply now, not just as someone who protected her, but as someone who believed in her strength and courage. The small routines of ranch life continued, but now there was a deeper bond between them. They worked side by side, laughing quietly over small mistakes, sharing meals and sometimes just sitting together in silence, enjoying the peace of the land. Anna began to see that safety, trust, and even friendship were possible. She began to dream again, imagining a future where she could live without fear, where she could belong and be valued. Tom, for his part, was quietly proud. He had taken in a woman who needed protection and guidance, and he had watched her grow stronger every day. He admired her resilience, her courage, and her willingness to face her fears. He knew there would be challenges ahead, but he also knew that together they could face anything. One evening, as the sun set behind the distant mountains and the sky turned deep shades of purple and orange, Anna and Tom sat on the porch. The wind whispered through the tall grass, carrying the scent of wild flowers and fresh earth. Anna looked out over the fields, her heart filled with a mixture of relief, gratitude, and hope. "I never thought I could feel safe again," she said softly. Tom nodded, his gaze on the horizon. "You are safe now, and you will continue to be. We'll face whatever comes next together." Bruce. The days that followed were filled with quiet moments of healing and small victories. Anna learned to ride horses confidently, to handle the cattle, and even to use the tools of the ranch with skill. She laughed more often, spoke more freely, and began to reclaim the life she had lost. Each day was a step forward, a small triumph over the fear and pain of her past. But the memory of that confrontation remained vivid. It reminded Anna of her strength, of the courage she had discovered within herself, and of the importance of standing up for what was right. It reminded Tom of the responsibility he had taken on, the duty to protect and guide someone who had suffered greatly, and the trust that had been placed in him. One afternoon, as they repaired a fence together, Anna paused and looked at Tom. "I never thought I could trust anyone like this," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "Not after everything that happened." Tom looked at her, a gentle smile on his face. "Trust is not easy," he said, "but it grows slowly, step by step. And you've earned it, just by being yourself." Anna felt a warmth in her chest, a feeling she hadn't experienced in years. She realized that safety, trust, and even love were possible. She was no longer the frightened, beaten woman who had arrived at the ranch weeks ago. She was stronger now, and she had someone by her side who would face the world with her. As the sun set, painting the sky with colors of hope and promise, Anna and Tom stood together looking out over the fields. The past had tried to claim her, but she had fought back, with courage, with guidance, and with support. And now she could finally see a future filled with possibility, safety, and belonging. For the first time in her life, Anna felt truly alive. And she knew that whatever challenges might come next, she would not face them alone. Together, she and Tom had built a small but unbreakable bond, a connection born from trust, courage, and the determination to protect and care for one another. And deep down, both of them knew that the real journey was only beginning. The journey of healing, growth, and perhaps something even more profound than either of them had imagined. The days following the confrontation passed quietly on the ranch. The tension that had filled the air for weeks slowly began to lift. Anna no longer flinched at every sound, and Tom no longer carried the heavy weight of constant vigilance. Life had returned to a rhythm, gentle and steady, but now it was filled with something new. Hope. Each morning the sun rose over the wide-open fields, painting the grass and mountains with gold and pink hues, and each evening the sky turned shades of purple and orange, a reminder that beauty still existed even after darkness. Anna had begun to embrace the ranch life fully. She rose early each morning, helped feed the animals, and learned to handle the chores with confidence. She could ride horses across the fields without fear, and she could guide Rusty and the other horses calmly, feeling in control of her surroundings. The lessons Tom had taught her about awareness and self-protection were now second nature. She no longer felt like a fragile, frightened woman. She had grown strong, capable, and resilient. But it wasn't just physical strength she had gained. It was emotional strength, too. She had learned to trust, to believe in kindness, and to accept that someone could care for her without asking anything in return. Tom noticed the changes in her, and a quiet pride filled his heart. He had watched her evolve from a terrified, beaten woman into someone who could stand tall and face life with courage. The bond between them had deepened over the weeks. It was no longer simply about protection or survival. It had become something deeper, rooted in trust, respect, and shared experiences. Tom appreciated her resilience, her intelligence, and her willingness to face her fears, and Anna appreciated his calm strength, his patience, and the unwavering safety he provided. The town had begun to take notice of Anna's transformation as well. Neighbors who had once whispered judgmental comments now looked on with admiration. They saw her confidence, her competence on the ranch, and the quiet partnership she shared with Tom. People began to respect the two of them, not only for their courage but for the way they had quietly faced danger together and come out stronger. Some offered help, dropping off food or supplies, while others simply nodded in recognition, acknowledging the strength and determination that radiated from them both. Anna spent many afternoons walking through the fields, sometimes alone, sometimes with Tom by her side. The wide open land, the soft rustle of grass in the wind, and the distant mountains offered a sense of freedom she had never experienced before. Paused to take deep breaths, letting the fresh air fill her lungs. And she smiled more often now, softly at first and then more openly as days passed. The simple tasks of ranch life, once overwhelming, had become sources of satisfaction. Fixing a fence, guiding the horses, or tending the garden no longer felt like chores. They were accomplishments that reminded her of her growing independence and her ability to reclaim control over her life. One afternoon, while repairing the barn roof, Anna paused to look out over the fields. The sun was warm on her back, and the wind carried the scent of wildflowers. She remembered the fear she had felt when she first arrived, the bruises on her arms, the trembling in her voice, and the terror in her heart. It felt like a lifetime ago. Now she was standing tall, her muscles strong from work and her mind clear from worry. She had come so far, and she knew that the journey was not yet over, but the progress she had made filled her with quiet joy and confidence. Tom watched her from below, leaning against the barn wall. He admired her determination, her courage, and the way she had embraced the challenges of the ranch with strength and grace. He knew that she was no longer the frightened woman who had arrived at his doorstep weeks ago. She was thriving, growing, and learning to trust again. He felt a deep sense of fulfillment knowing that he had helped her find her footing, that he had given her the space to heal, and the encouragement to grow. As the days turned into weeks, Anna and Tom shared more moments of quiet companionship. They ate meals together, sometimes laughing over small jokes or stories, sometimes simply enjoying the silence of the wide-open fields. They shared responsibilities, worked side by side, and learned to rely on one another. Their partnership was built on mutual respect and trust, and it grew stronger with each passing day. Anna felt safe, valued, and appreciated. And Tom felt a sense of connection and purpose he had not felt in years. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains and painted the sky with shades of deep purple and gold, Anna and Tom sat on the porch watching the cattle graze and the wind move through the grass. Anna spoke softly, her voice filled with emotion. I never thought I could feel this safe or happy, she said. Her eyes met Tom's, and for the first time, she allowed herself to acknowledge the depth of her feelings. Tom reached out and gently took her hand, a gesture of care and reassurance. "You've earned it, Anna," he said. "You've worked hard, faced danger, and never given up. You belong here. You're safe, and you're strong." Tears filled Anna's eyes, not from fear this time, but from gratitude and relief. She realized that she had not only survived her past, but had reclaimed her life. She had found safety, trust, and companionship in a place she had never expected. For the first time in years, she felt truly at home. The following weeks were filled with more healing and moments of joy. Anna continued to grow in confidence and independence, and her bond with Tom deepened further. They worked together to improve the ranch, tended the animals, and cared for the land. Each small accomplishment was a reminder of how far she had come, and each shared laugh or quiet conversation strengthened their connection. One afternoon, a neighbor dropped by with news from town. There had been no sign of the men who had once tried to take Anna. The threats that had loomed over her past had faded, leaving a sense of peace that both she and Tom cherished. Anna felt a sense of closure, a relief that she had not experienced before. The dangers that had once seemed insurmountable had been faced, and she had survived. She had not only found safety, but also a life she could call her own. Anna and Tom spent their days together tending to the ranch, exploring the fields, and enjoying the simple pleasures of life. They shared quiet moments of laughter, thoughtful conversation, and mutual care. Anna often reflected on her journey, from the terrified woman who had arrived beaten and bruised, to the strong, confident person she had become. She knew that she owed much of her healing to Tom's patience, guidance, and unwavering support, and she felt a deep sense of gratitude and affection for him.
One evening, as the sun set and the sky was painted in brilliant colors, Anna stood on a hill overlooking the ranch.
She took a deep breath, feeling the wind in her hair and the warmth of the sun on her face. She thought about everything she had been through. The fear, the pain, the challenges, and the courage it had taken to face them. She realized that she was not only stronger but also happier than she had ever been. She turned and saw Tom approaching, and a smile spread across her face. "You've come a long way," Tom said quietly, standing beside her.
"So have you?" Anna replied, her voice soft but filled with emotion.
"I don't think I could have done this without you." Tom shook his head gently. "No."
You did it yourself. I just helped you see that you could. Anna looked at him, her eyes shining with gratitude and something deeper, a recognition of the bond they shared, built through trust, courage, and shared experiences.
Despot. She realized that she had not only found safety and healing, but also companionship and perhaps even love. The seasons changed, and with each passing day, Anna and Tom built a life together on the ranch. They celebrated small victories, shared quiet moments of joy, and supported one another through challenges. Anna's confidence and strength continued to grow, and she found satisfaction in the simple, honest work of ranch life. Tom found fulfillment in seeing her thrive and in sharing his life with someone he had grown to care for deeply. One sunny afternoon, as they rode horses across the open fields, Anna felt a sense of freedom she had never known. Liberation. The past, though never completely forgotten, no longer held power over her. She had reclaimed her life, found safety and trust, and discovered that happiness was possible. She looked at Tom, riding beside her, and realized that she had found not only protection but partnership, someone who would stand by her through life's challenges and joys. As the sun set behind the mountains, casting a warm glow over the ranch, Anna and Tom returned to the house. They tended the animals, prepared a simple meal, and sat together on the porch, watching the stars appear in the clear night sky. Anna leaned against Tom, feeling a sense of peace and belonging that she had never known before. "I'm finally home," she whispered softly, her voice filled with contentment. Tom smiled and squeezed her hand gently. "And you always will be," he said. In the quiet of the night, with the ranch stretching endlessly around them, Anna and Tom knew that they had found something rare and precious: safety, trust, healing, and a life built together on care, respect. Anna, the journey had been difficult, filled with fear and uncertainty, but it had led them to a place of hope and possibility. They had faced danger, overcome obstacles, and discovered strength in themselves and in each other. And as they watched the stars twinkle above the wide-open fields, both Anna and Tom felt a deep sense of fulfillment and peace. The past was behind them, the present was full of life and promise, and the future was theirs to shape together. They had built a home, a safe haven, and a life where courage, trust, and love could thrive. For Anna, the journey from fear and bruises to safety and belonging was complete. And for Tom, the quiet, lonely rancher, the arrival of this woman had brought purpose, companionship, and the warmth of a connection he had longed for all his life. Together, they faced the world, stronger and braver than ever, ready for whatever adventures and challenges lay ahead.